So the area that I'm focusing on of the phase one of the project is the money. So I'm really interested in finding out the role of the money in the community and what that means when a community is allocated £1 million to spend over 10 years. So it's really the money as a mechanism for change, I think that we're looking at. So there are previous initiatives that have been introduced in community-based initiatives to do with engagement and empowerment, with varying degrees of financial investment and also levels of community control. But the results are mixed, so it's sort of unclear really how effective those initiatives have been. And we don't really know what it means exactly to have £1 million, that amount of money in the community, with the community having control of it. So we really want to unpack the finer details of what actually is going on when that happens. So that's my focus really, is okay, what's going on here with the money when the community is in control or has control of £1 million over 10 years with support and with some sort of structural guidelines built in. So there are a number of things to emerge from the 10 sites that we looked at closely in terms of the money and it sort of working as a mechanism for change, as it were. So I'm going to sort of talk about 8 things quite briefly that I've chosen to talk about today. The first thing really is how it worked as a hook to get people involved and interested and sort of galvanised around this idea of having money to spend in their community and really having control about how it was going to be spent. Some participants talked about how they were really interested in the notion that it could really transform their community. There was hope that there might be real change. So they were quite positive things. Others talked about it as being, there were sort of some tensions around having £1 million, and that was related to the context. There might have been previous negative relationships, for instance, in the community. And so those, there were instances of people being a bit more cynical about the money and sort of saying, well, we've had funding before and it's run out and we haven't really had control of it. So there were instances where, although it drew people in, there could also be some challenges and some tensions very initially, and a sort of a misunderstanding actually too about how much control the residents had. So there might have been some groups in some of the communities that actually didn't quite follow that it was going to be the communities that were in control of that £1 million over 10 years, and that caused some difficulties to start with that I think seem to be being worked through. So maybe that is sort of a natural part of this sort of new initiative, because it's quite a sort of a new initiative for this amount of money, over 10 years, but also for residents to have control. The money itself, the figure of 1 million was quite interesting because they thought that was quite important in terms of drawing people in. As I said, some people called it a hook. Some people, one person said, oh, it's a nice little strapline to get people interested. So I think in that sense, it really did work quite well as a mechanism to engage and connect communities, to bring people together, to have conversations about the possibilities and how they could change the area that they lived and how they could make it a better place to live. The second point, which is directly related to that, that they talked about, was how they could, it was an opportunity, it sort of enabled priority setting. So because people were coming together to talk about the £1 million and how they could spend it, of course they had to discuss amongst themselves in the communities, and that's residents, but also organisations and agencies too, how that money should be spent. So what they prioritised became clear through these conversations. So I think that worked as a mechanism in that sense too, not only bringing people together then, but also as a mechanism to enable early priorities, which might change and develop, of course, over time. The third thing, which is also linked, I suppose, really, is money and its symbolic power. So it wasn't just instrumental. What it meant to some communities was that they had sort of more power because they had this money, and it gave them credibility, and that was what one person talked about. We've got credibility now, we have this money, we can show we can work as a team, so far anyway, and be effective, and we can actually go to these sort of decision-making discussions, and we have a place at the table, as it were, with the council and other agencies and other institutions in the community, maybe businesses, because we've got this money behind us, and we have deserved this place, if you like, at the table. So it's opened up opportunities for us to discuss with other agencies in the community, because of this sort of symbolic power. It gives us credibility. So something interesting that's come out of this so far is emerging, I think, is the sense that some people are saying, well, actually £1 million isn't that much. And we really, this initiative is not actually about the £1 million, it's not about the money. It has enabled us to get together, it's galvanised action, it's a catalyst for action and to get people that are already here and who have lots of assets and lots of skills. So it's enabled us all to get together and to work together, but actually it's not about the money, it's more about this process of getting together and connecting and doing things together. And I think that's actually quite a strong theme to come through, but it's about the process of using the money and what's that enabled, and so how the money has been a mechanism to get people working together as opposed to the £1 million as a sort of instrumental concrete sum of money.